Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick, and I've written a book on the Shroud. It's called St. Jude Thaddeus and the Legend of the Shroud. It's kind of a picture book and a basic introduction telling the story of Jude Thaddeus and his connection with the sacred image of Edessa, which some people interpret as the Shroud. Because, I mean, if the Shroud is real, it's like, where did it come from? There is an ancient tradition of an image, a supernatural image that was of the face of Jesus Christ. And Ian Wilson has done the best research on the Shroud. But what I'm going to say is I'm going to do another Shroud Expo again very soon. But recently, someone's running a computer model to try to disprove the Shroud. And a lot of people are trying to say this image, the Shroud, was not meant to deceive anybody. It's just a work of art. But the problem with that is science cannot explain how the image of the Shroud was made. And a lot of these people who are saying the Shroud isn't the real burial cloth of Jesus, but a work of art, they try to argue that it was created in the 12 or 1300s. But there are no artists capable of creating such an image in the 12 and 1300s. And what this person was doing was trying to show how the cloth lay over the face of Jesus and how soft and flexible or elastic was the cloth or stiff. They don't really know that, but they're trying to say that if the image, if you have a piece of cloth, and it goes over your ears, you spread it out, of course it's not going to, your face will be distorted, right? Because it's not a direct image on your face. It's warped or wrapped around your face. So obviously they're trying to say, well, the Shroud can't be real because if this cloth wrapped up Jesus, then you see those distortions. One of the other things is like, it seems like there'd be smudges and blood as they put his, you'd think that would be the case as well, that there'd be blood splatted all over the cloth and smudges as they moved his body around it since he's covered with blood. But they washed his body. They washed his body before they put it on his cloth. We don't know the process of how they laid the body on the cloth. We don't know exactly how you can speculate how it was wrapped around his body. But the question, what this person did was they're saying that this is not a 3D body. First, this is just a computer model, and you can do anything on a computer. This is a virtual thing. This is not. I guess it's interesting how he did it, but what he's trying to argue is that this wasn't a full body. This was a 3-inch flat model. But I don't believe that's the case. And the other thing about this new theory is he stops. It's like, okay, so you're saying that someone did a 2 to 3 inch cutout, a flat cutout of Jesus' body, and pressed it in this cloth. But how did that structure, that model, whatever it is, create that image? They can't explain that. I've seen people, like this atheist. It's like, why is he so, this atheist person, why is he so passionate about disproving the Shroud? I believe the Shroud is likely authentic, honestly, because I think that's the best explanation, because like I said, it perplexes modern scientists. But my faith isn't in the Shroud of Turin. If the Shroud is proven to be fake, I mean, I believe in the apostolic witness in the Scriptures. My faith is built in the Scriptures and in who Jesus was according to the Bible, not in this relic. But I think there's reasons to believe the Shroud is authentic and that it is the actual burial cloth of Jesus. But what is it to this atheist? Why is this person so consumed with, or these various people consumed with debunking it? And nobody's been able to do it. There's this one, I misplaced it. There's this book on the Shroud. It was written by some atheist trying to disprove it. And it's like, aha, see, I've created a replica of the Shroud. And he hasn't. I mean, you look at what he did, and it looks very, very different from the Shroud. And like I said, this person's saying, oh, I got new insight that, if the cloth covers your face, and it's unwrapped, the image will be distorted. Well, that's not a new revelation. I've thought about that, and other people thought about that already. The thing is, we don't know exactly how the cloth laid over him. Remember that Jesus was hastily placed in the tomb, and they were returning to properly bury him, if you will, to prepare his body properly. Jesus died late in the afternoon. They had to get permission to remove him and place him in the tomb, and so they had to move with expediency. So it's hard to say exactly how he was wrapped in there. And also, what was the process of this image being created? And many people believe that it was created with a burst of light or radiation. I don't know. I do know that artists were not capable of creating that image, and then from the 12 to 1300s. And in fact, nobody's capable of recreating the image today. Trying to find they don't even know the process of. So maybe it was created by a blinding flash of light in the resurrection event. That's possible. I'm kind of skeptical of that, but no one's been able to demonstrate how these computer models. That's all they are, is computer models. And this is linen. It's not tissue the way he shows it in his graphics, in his little animation. And that's what it is. It's animation he created. And it's interesting. I'm sure this person is trying to be accurate as possible, but like I said, he's got to explain how the image was created. I believe it was created. It would have had these distortions. Well, you don't know that because you don't exactly know for certain how the cloth was wrapped over his body, number one. Number two, you have not created the image with your distortions, right? You haven't explained how that image was made. So he thinks it was a flat, cutout model of some sort. But if they're going through the difficulty, all the trouble of making, why would you make a flat, form of Jesus? It's flat shape. It doesn't make any sense. And then, like I said, what means did the artist do? Don't just show a computer model. That's not convincing enough. Actually replicate. I want to see them actually replicate the image. They can't. So I think that this person is speculative. I think he has a flawed methodology, and when you look at the shroud, you have to look at the cumulative evidences, not just one thing. There's different aspects of the shroud that have to be explained, and like I said, he doesn't know for certain how the cloth was over the body, or the method in which the image was created, and he hasn't replicated it. Right? He's just saying that, like I said, this is known that if the cloth was rigidly stuck on his face, affixed to his face, so he's thinking that was affixed, like tight on his skin, and that being the case, there should be distortions. But like I said, that's all speculative, and Ian Wilson's done the best research in this, and there was it's kind of interesting. I guess there's this man on his deathbed, and he left an image on. He's laying on this deathbed. I don't know what it was. There's some kind of chemical reaction. He might have wet on himself, but whatever happened, maybe because of his disease or chemicals and the treatments, the man's hand, his buttocks, and his leg. It's the closest thing to the shroud ever seen. But somehow he's laying on this bed, and there's chemicals on him and on the material, and it's very interesting. It's depicted in the Shroud of Turin books by Ian Wilson. And so that's the only thing I've actually seen and this is just something that happened through happenstance, that someone's bed sheet this man was laying on created almost like a photograph of most of his body, his backside laying. He showed his hand and his leg on his, what I guess was in a sense the span. So this is probably just 20, 30 years ago, where I'm not sure exactly. I have to look in the book. when this happened. So that's the only thing I've seen that's anything close to what the shroud is. So anyway, I've done a lot of work on the shroud. Recently, Tucker Carlson interviewed this guy called Jeremiah Johnston. And I think when you're dealing with history and art history and the history of relics, you have to be precise. You have to be precise. You have to be factual and precise. And Jeremiah Johnston made a few mistakes. It is true that we have the story of Thaddeus of Edessa and Eusebius taking the gospel. He's sent by St. Thomas to take the gospel to King Abgar, an Assyrian king in Mesopotamia. And the oldest accounts of that story do mention a miraculous image of the face of Christ. But I don't think it's in Eusebius. It's in other ancient sources, but not Eusebius. And Ian Wilson deals with the facts. So I have to go back and do my research and find exactly when we have the earliest. In some of the most ancient accounts of Abgar, it's true, but not in Eusebius. In other ancient sources, it mentions the Mandalion or the holy image of Edessa. And the first time that the shroud is specifically mentioned as the shroud, which we know it, is I think there's some priest who is claiming it was fake. But that letter, and this is from around the 12 or 1300s, and he claims an artist made it, but he doesn't say who the artist was or where the artist was from or when and how the artist made it. So it's unsubstantiated claims. And its motivation was jealousy. This other town had this relic that was attracting tourists, and he wanted it. So, but Ian Wilson has that entire letter in his book, so you can read it yourself and make your own opinion about it. But like I said, the shroud has had detractors, but it also has had advocates, and I think the preponderance of evidence leans toward it being true. The Catholic Church only took possession in 1980. I didn't know that. That was a good interview with Jeremiah Johnston. I just think he wasn't precise in certain things as he should have been. If the shroud is real, we should put all the information out there, pro and con, and let the preponderance of evidence lead people to their conclusion. Don't withhold evidence. And Ian Wilson doesn't. He has that letter, one of the earlier detractors of the shroud. But the Catholic Church doesn't have an official position on the Shroud of Turin. They don't say it's real, don't say it's fake. They present it as a way to meditate on the sufferings of Jesus. And I think that's true. It's very profound, if it's a work of art, which I think it's not. Whatever the image is, it's very profound. It shows, it's accurate to the Bible. And one of the biggest proofs of the shroud, I'll close with this, is that you couldn't really see the shroud until it was photographed and a negative image was made of it. You couldn't see the details. So there are details that could not be seen until the year 1890. And when you make a photographic image, the photographic negative is actually a positive of the shroud. It's like a photograph. And you can just look at it yourself. You have a picture of the shroud as it is, and you have the negative image. How could an artist in the 1300s create details that can't even be seen until the invention of photography? It just strains credulity. So in the end, it's most likely authentic. But either way, like I said, it shows the sufferings of Jesus as described in the Gospels. It's true to the Scriptures. And so it's a proclamation of the passion of Jesus, at the very least. So I just want to respond. I saw those computer graphics. It's interesting, but it's not convincing. It's not compelling. It doesn't disprove the shroud at all. And there's probably going to be more people defending the shroud once you have these people with the specious, false, fraudulent arguments or attacks against the authenticity of the shroud. The defenders of the shroud are going to speak up and disprove this person's baseless and inaccurate theories about it. So, which is good. Like I said, I think the person who created the computer model, he probably thinks he's presenting accurate information, but he's not. You have to look at all the preponderance of evidence, all the different aspects of the shroud. And how could a person create? And it's not painted. It's not a painted image. And like I said, what was the process of creating it? How could somebody create an image that can't even be seen for hundreds of years? So anyway, just join us for the new Shroud Expo. I got my replica of the shroud. We're going to talk about all the details in it, and I want to be better. I want to do better than this Jeremiah Johnson, because I think he unintentionally made some misleading statements, and he, just put all the facts out there. Like I said, pro and con, because truth will prevail. If it's real, don't withhold facts and information. Just put it all out there. And like I said, the preponderance of evidence. If you look at all the, if you look at one little aspect, then I guess you could have some doubts, like this computer model. But if you look at the culmination of all the different details and facts surrounding the shroud, it leans towards its authenticity. But I'll present these arguments in an upcoming my second version of the Shroud Expo. So stay tuned. Thank you, and God bless you.